The thing about betrayal is it doesn't come with fireworks. It slips in through the back door while you're busy microwaving leftovers and thinking about whether or not you remembered to lock the car. It started with my refrigerator. Yeah, you read that right. The damn fridge. I was halfway through a work call when I got a notification on my phone. New voice command detected on Smart Chill Assistant. At first, I thought it was some glitch or maybe a butt dial. My wife, Mel, works from home. Maybe she'd asked the fridge to reorder oat milk or something. Real edge of your seat kind of stuff. I ignored it. The next day, same notification. Different time. Right around 1:42 p.m. A time when, according to her shared calendar, she was deep in a team strategy call. I'm not the suspicious type. I pay our mortgage early, do my own laundry, and I've never once checked her phone. But the second day in a row, it nudged me. Just enough to make me tap that notification. The fridge assistant logs voice commands automatically. Yeah, we live in the future. And it lets you replay audio clips in case you need to hear add almond milk to the grocery list on loop. Only, this wasn't about almond milk. The clip started with a whisper. A woman's voice. Mel's voice. Don't forget to grab your shirt this time. I can't keep hiding your crap around the apartment. Pause. A man's voice. Low and amused. What? Afraid your Boy Scout husband's gonna find out? She laughed. Then a long silence. The fridge picked up the rustling of clothes, or maybe it was just my blood pressure rising before the clip cut off. At first, I genuinely believed it had to be someone else. A guest. A friend. A scene from a show playing on the TV. But I knew that laugh. I knew the inflection in her voice when she was trying too hard to sound casual. I also knew that wasn't a line from Breaking Bad. That night, I didn't say a word. Just acted normal. I cooked dinner. Asked how her Zoom meetings went. She smiled, said exhausting, and poured herself a glass of wine. Same way she always did. So I started listening. Over the next week, I replayed every recording the fridge uploaded. Midday commands. Whispers. Some arguments. One laugh that caught in my throat because I hadn't heard it in months, and now I knew why. The man's voice was familiar, but I couldn't place it. It scratched at something buried. Until one clip made the mistake. He said, "You know he'll hate us both, right? I mean, I'm his brother." Not like his brother. Not a metaphor. His brother. That's when my stomach dropped and my brain lit up at the same time. Because that voice? That was Evan, my half-brother. We share a dad and a regrettable last name. Haven't seen each other in 4 years. Last I heard, he'd flamed out of a real estate scam and was on probation for assault. Got off with community service and a court-ordered therapist. Guess therapy didn't take. So here's the rundown. My wife was cheating. With my brother. In our apartment. While I was paying the bills. And my goddamn fridge caught them red-handed. You want to know what rock bottom smells like? It's reheated lasagna and Bluetooth betrayal. Now, if this had happened to someone else, I'd probably say confront them, get closure, move on. But I'm not someone else. I'm Jonah Harrow, audio engineer and podcast producer. And when people lie to me, I hit record. So here's where things stopped being about heartbreak and started being about engineering. See, I wasn't just going to storm into the apartment yelling like a chump on daytime TV. I wasn't going to throw Evan into a wall or key his Pontiac Grand AM or whatever low IQ revenge fantasy he'd probably expect. That would have made it about emotion. I was aiming for something cleaner, sharper, something with a little bit of finesse. I'm an audio guy. Been one since before podcasts were trendy. My bread and butter is taking chaos, bad acoustics, glitchy recordings, hollow voices, and making them sing. Give me some waveforms, a decent pair of headphones, and a gallon of coffee, and I'll hand you back a story that breaks charts. And now? Now I had my own story to tell. I spent the next 3 days building what I later called the confessional. Just me, a mic, and a week's worth of petty rage simmering into something more calculated. I didn't use names, not at first. That would have been too easy. No, I kept it vague. Universal. Told it like a modern noir, one sad bastard narrating his slow slide into hell. The first episode dropped on a Thursday night. I called it The Fridge That Knew Too Much. Kind of stupid, but the title worked. Got clicks. Got attention. In the episode, I laid out the basics, a husband, a wife, a smart fridge that accidentally became the world's worst roommate. I added in some voice clips, just enough to give it atmosphere. Not the ones with names. Not the dirty ones. Just a few harmless lines about shirts and whispers and shoes left under the couch that didn't belong to the husband. Within 12 hours, the episode hit the rising drama charts on Apple Podcasts. Within 24, I had 37 emails from strangers telling me their own horror stories. Betrayals. Double lives. One guy said his girlfriend cheated with their dog groomer. Another woman said her husband was hiding an affair and a secret kid. People love mess when it's not theirs. Mel, meanwhile, had no idea. She was still coming home from work at 6:15, still scrolling through her phone like she didn't have a single thing in the world to worry about. Still kissing me goodnight like my pillow didn't smell like lice. And me? I was producing episode 2, The Brother. This one hit a little deeper. I stripped the humor. Let it sink into something colder. I described the feeling of betrayal when it comes not just from your partner, but from your blood. I didn't say Evan's name. I didn't have to. The story spoke for itself. My voice was even clinical, almost too calm. That freaked people out more than yelling would have. You sound like a surgeon, one listener messaged me. Like you're dissecting your own heart. Yeah, that was the idea. By episode 3, the podcast had a cult following. Reddit threads popped up with fan theories. Is the wife Mel? Did he actually confront her? What kind of psychopath just records this stuff? I ignored the last one. Then came the interesting part. I set a trap. On Sunday, I told Mel I'd be out of town overnight for a consulting gig in Jersey. Easy lie. She bought it. I even left the house with a packed duffel bag and everything. Drove around for a couple hours. Came back through the side entrance. Quiet as a mouse. The apartment has decent sound insulation, unless you know exactly where to place a mic. Which I did. I dropped a wireless condenser just under the radiator, hidden behind a potted plant we hadn't watered since spring. Plugged into a battery pack with remote recording set on motion trigger. I went to my brother's place. Not to see him. Just to sit across the street with a slice of greasy pizza and watch his lights. I figured if he wasn't home, he was at mine. Around midnight, my phone buzzed. Recorder activated. Gotcha. The audio was grainy, but usable. Their voices were clear enough, close enough to the mic. She asked him if he was sure no one saw him come in. He laughed and said, he's in Jersey. Relax. She told him she was this close to ending it. He said, don't. The guy's got money. You got a lease in your name, and I've got court fees. That line hit like a steel-toed boot to the ribs. So now it wasn't just betrayal. It was strategy. It was a goddamn team effort. The next day, I uploaded episode 4, The Lease. It was less about relationships and more about money, how sometimes betrayal comes in spreadsheets, how people calculate what you're worth based on your income, your silence, your willingness to stay blind. I kept it tight, lean, no fluff. By then, Mel started to notice something was off. She asked why I was spending more time in my studio. I said I had a new freelance gig. She asked if we were okay. I told her, better than ever. That was the first time I saw her hesitate. And then I dropped the hammer. Episode 5, The Voice. The entire episode was one clip. Just one. Raw, unedited, timestamped. Evan, you know he'll hate us both, right? I mean, I'm his brother. Mel, he doesn't have to find out. He never listens to anything that doesn't come through a mic. The irony nearly choked me. The episode went viral overnight. Comments flooded in. Reposts. Reaction videos. One TikToker lip-synced Evan's voice and called it the Fridge Files. I never responded to any of it, because the final episode was already in the works. I was saving the names. The cold, hard names. And I had something neither of them thought I'd find. See, Evan was still on probation. Had a condition that required him to stay at least 500 feet from alcohol, bars, and, wait for it, convicted associates. Turns out, Mel had a minor theft charge sealed from college. And I had proof they were drinking wine together in our living room. I mean, thanks to the Fridge's voice assistant and the fact that I've got 4 separate clips of her saying, pour another glass. Plus video. I forgot to mention, the hallway nest cam? Yeah, that didn't just catch packages. It caught Evan, drunk, stumbling into our place on a Tuesday afternoon. Just had to upload that into episode 6. But I'll save the finale for later. Because right now, Mel's in the kitchen. And the Fridge just asked her, would you like to listen to your most recent saved recording? She's staring at it like it just grew fangs. And me? I'm in the other room, smiling. There's something oddly therapeutic about watching someone unravel under the weight of a secret that isn't a secret anymore. The morning after The Voice episode dropped, I woke up to the smell of toast burning and a woman pretending like the world wasn't about to collapse around her. Mel was pacing in front of the fridge, phone in hand, muttering under her breath like she was rehearsing a crisis PR statement. I watched from the hallway for a solid 30 seconds before she finally looked up and saw me standing there. She blinked, forced a smile. "Morning," she said. "Morning," I replied. She turned back to the fridge and tapped the touchscreen like it had personally betrayed her, which, technically, it had. Not on purpose. Just incidentally. See, Smart Chill has this personal listening mode, meant to help with dietary preferences, voice commands, and reminders. What it also does, and here's the kicker, is automatically archive any audio longer than 12 seconds. Because they use those samples to improve assistant responsiveness. And I just enabled cloud backup. One checkbox. No password. All of her whispered garbage, backed up nightly. "Hey," she said, not looking at me. "I've been meaning to ask, have you been doing some kind of project?" I almost choked on my coffee. "Why do you ask?" I came across this podcast, randomly. And I don't know, it just sounded a lot like you. I kept my face neutral. "Oh, what's it called?" She hesitated, then said in a too casual voice, "The Confessional?" Ding, ding, ding. She was fishing, which meant she'd heard enough. But not everything. Not yet. I sipped my coffee, leaned against the counter, and said, "Weird coincidence. A lot of audio guys sound the same, don't they?" She didn't respond. Just stood there holding a butter knife like she was about to spread guilt on a slice of sourdough. Then she cleared her throat and said, "I'm thinking of visiting my sister next week. Just to clear my head. Take a few days." "Right. Her sister." I nodded slowly. "Good idea," I said. She looked at me for a beat too long, like she was trying to figure out if I was bluffing or if I was just that oblivious. She settled on oblivious, mistake number 7, if anyone's counting. That day, I posted episode 6, Family Ties. This one had it all. The names, the dates, the recordings, the nest cam footage, even a clip of Evan saying, "Dude, if this ever gets out, I'll be back in county." His voice was shaky, real scared, which, if you ask me, made for fantastic audio. I structured it like a slow burn, built tension, layered in my narrative voice, calm and chilling, while splicing in their own words like ghosts haunting their own story. I ended the episode with this line. Sometimes, betrayal isn't just personal. Sometimes it's prosecutable. I didn't just publish the episode. I distributed it, submitted it to every major aggregator, Reddit drama thread, true crime subreddit, even a few Facebook divorce groups where these kinds of scandals get devoured like rotisserie chicken. By noon, it was the #1 trending audio story on Spotify. By 2 o'clock, I had 213 new followers and a dozen emails from podcast producers asking if I wanted to monetize. And by 3, the cops showed up. Now, let me be very clear here. I didn't call them, but someone did. Probably Evan's parole officer. See, in addition to the probation clause about alcohol, there was a little stipulation about unauthorized cohabitation or sustained overnight visits with felons or individuals with sealed criminal records. Mel's minor theft from college? That counted. She'd never disclosed it during his review process. So when my podcast episode, complete with audio, video, and a handy timeline, hit the internet like a grenade in a glass house, someone in law enforcement took notice. Evan was detained less than 6 hours after I hit publish. Now, here's where things got beautiful. Mel didn't know yet. Not until she came home from her yoga class that evening, waltzing in with a smoothie and a guilty conscience, only to find me sitting on the couch holding up her tablet, already queued up to the final episode. "Want to listen to something together?" I asked, my voice cool and pleasant, like I was offering to play a new playlist I discovered. She frowned. "What is this?" "Just something I've been working on." I tapped play. Her face changed in stages. Confusion, realization, horror, rage. She tried to snatch the tablet, but I held it just out of reach, letting the room fill with her own voice, saying, "He doesn't have to find out. He never listens to anything that doesn't come through a mic." Her knees buckled, and she sat hard on the arm of the couch. I let the audio run. Let her hear herself. Let her hear Evan. All of it, until she stood up, shaking. You've been spying on me?" I turned slowly to look at her. "Not spying. Recording. Slight difference. It's legal when it's in your own home, and you own the devices." She shook her head like she was trying to unscramble her thoughts. "You ruined his life." "No," I said. "He did that all by himself. I just hit record." Silence. She tried to summon tears, anger, anything that would give her the upper hand again. But I didn't give her that power. Not anymore. Why? She finally whispered. Why would you make this public? I stared at her for a long time, then said, because pain is boring and private. She flinched like I'd hit her. I hadn't. I never would. But I'd said what needed saying. She left that night. Bag packed in under 10 minutes. I didn't ask where she was going. I didn't care. The fridge didn't care either. It beeped cheerfully as she slammed the door. The next morning, I had 3 missed calls from an LA podcast network. One of them left a voicemail. They wanted to talk about distribution rights. A full series. Possibly a deal. I didn't call back right away. I needed to think. Because the story wasn't done. Not yet. The internet had questions. The audience wanted more. Everyone loves a clean ending. But real life? Real life's messy, eh? Which was perfect. Because I had one more recording. Something she didn't know I had. And when I dropped it, it would destroy both of them. You ever hold on to something so tightly, it stops feeling like evidence and starts feeling like purpose? That's where I was. Mel was gone. Evan was in custody, or close enough. My phone was a battlefield of texts and DMs and interview requests. Half of them wanted to congratulate me on my genius revenge. The other half wanted a follow-up episode. A deeper dive. Blood in the water, and now the sharks were hungry. And I had just the right thing to feed them. But first, I needed to get my head straight. I unplugged for a day. Took a drive upstate to a diner I used to visit before life got complicated. Ordered a burnt grilled cheese and a milkshake. Sat in a booth by the window, watched trucks roll by on the highway. No phone. No laptop. Just a voice recorder in my pocket. Old school. Analog. Sometimes, you need to remember where you came from. I clicked it on. Jonah Harrow, I said. Day 31 since betrayal. Audio diary, off the record. And I just talked. About how the world doesn't fall apart all at once. It splinters. Tiny cracks forming under pressure. Invisible at first. A missed call here. A late night there. Until the whole thing finally crumbles and you're left standing in the dust, wondering how you missed it. I talked about Evan. About how we'd been close once. How our dad used to pit us against each other like life was some kind of backyard cage match. I got the grades. Evan got the charm. I got the discipline. Evan got the girls. But underneath all that, I thought we had some kind of code. Some bloodborne truce that meant we didn't go for each other's throats or wives. Clearly, I was wrong. I talked about Mel, too. Not the Mel who cheated. The Mel I used to know. The one who used to fall asleep on my shoulder during horror movies. The one who made a playlist for our road trip to Asheville and insisted we stop at every weird roadside attraction we saw. I remembered laughing with her in a tent under the stars, her face lit up by the glow of a dying campfire. That Mel's gone now. Maybe she never existed. Maybe I just filled in the blanks I wanted to see. But still, she deserved a proper ending. Which brings us to the file. See, after everything went down, I kept digging. I couldn't help myself. Part revenge, part compulsion. I went through old recordings, email syncs, Nest backups, looking for closure, I guess. Something final. Something clean. That's when I found a deleted file in the cloud drive. One of those automatically synced, half-buried recordings SmartShill kept in its audio cache before wiping. Timestamp. 5 weeks ago. Same day I got food poisoning from that sketchy taco truck. Same night Mel brought me soup, sat by my bed, kissed my forehead. The file was short. Less than 20 seconds. But it changed everything. Recording begins. Evan, he's gonna figure it out, you know. He's not stupid. Mel, I'm not doing this because I love you. I'm doing this because I want out. Evan, out of what? Mel, everything. End recording. It hit me like a cold slap. This wasn't just a fling. It wasn't love. It wasn't passion. It wasn't boredom or desire or lust. It was strategy. Mel wasn't just cheating. She was exiting. I stared at the screen for what felt like hours. Replayed the clip again and again, listening to the way she said it. Not cold. Not angry. Flat. Like a transaction. Like reading out a menu option at a drive-thru. That's when I knew. The story I thought I was telling, the betrayal story, the revenge story, it wasn't the full picture. This wasn't about a broken heart. This was about control. About power. And about what happens when someone thinks they've rigged the whole board. So I went home. Sat at my desk. Poured a drink. Stared at the mic. Then I hit record. Episode 7. Exit Strategy. It opened with the recovered clip. I let it play dry and uncut. Then I spoke. Some people cheat because they're reckless. Some because they're selfish. But some cheat because they're making a move. A quiet exit from a life they think they've outgrown. They think they're playing chess. But they forget, sometimes the pawn knows exactly where the queen is going. I laid it all out. Mel's calculated choices. Her cool detachment. The slow erosion of our marriage that she orchestrated like a demolition expert, planting the charges just out of sight until everything collapsed in perfect symmetry. I didn't frame it as heartbreak anymore. I framed it as a case study. And the listeners? Ate it up. Reddit went wild. People started theorizing whether Mel had been planning this for months, maybe years. They pulled up old social media posts, dissected her captions like they were zodiac ciphers. One guy claimed he ran her voice through a lie detection algorithm. I don't know if that's real, but the video got 600,000 views in 2 days. Mel, predictably, reached out. She emailed, called, left voicemails. She started with anger. You're insane. You're destroying lives. Then shifted to fear. You've ruined everything. I'm getting harassed. You need to take it all down. And finally, regret. Can we talk? Just once? Please. I didn't reply, but I saved every message. You know, for the record. Because I wasn't done yet. I still had one more card to play. See, a week after Evan was detained, I got a package in the mail. No return address. Just a cheap manila envelope, postmarked from a halfway house 3 counties over. Inside? A handwritten letter from Evan. And a USB stick. The letter was a mess. Scribbled apologies. A plea for forgiveness. He said he didn't expect things to go this way. Said he thought Mel was going to leave me quietly. Said he figured we'd grow apart anyway. Right. Real noble, that one. But the USB? That was something else. It was a screen recording. Evan's screen. An email draft. To Mel. Never sent. Subject line, the truth. The body? You said we'd split everything. You said once he was out of the picture, we'd sell the apartment and disappear. You said the inheritance was ours. Don't pretend you didn't say it. I have the receipts. Receipts. Literal ones. Screenshots of their text messages. Bank transfers. Conversations about how they'd split my dad's inheritance once I was emotionally compromised enough to sign over power of attorney. That's when it all clicked. This wasn't just about intimacy. It was about the money. About my name on the apartment deed. About my rights to the inheritance Dad left behind. About setting me up to look unstable, so they could cash in. Except Evan, bless his idiot heart, got sloppy. And now? Now I had everything. So I started working on episode 8. The one I'd title, The Will. And trust me, it's going to be a masterpiece. Because if you thought betrayal was juicy, wait until you hear about financial conspiracy. And wait until the world finds out exactly how far they were willing to go to take me down. You know, there's a strange clarity that comes with betrayal, like a fog lifting. Everything that used to confuse you starts making perfect sense. The late nights. The weird silences. The arguments over nothing. They weren't accidents. They were groundwork. A setup. And I was the mark. Until I flipped the script. By the time I started recording episode 8, The Will, I was operating like a man possessed. Not angry. Not emotional. Just focused, like I had a scalpel in one hand and the other on a beating heart. All I had to do was make the cut. And oh, I cut deep. The episode opened with a soundbite of Evan's unsent email. I had a voice actor read it out calm, composed, just enough smugness to make listeners' skin crawl. You said we'd split everything. You said once he was out of the picture, we'd sell the apartment and disappear. You said the inheritance was ours. Then I dropped the hammer, a bank screenshot showing an attempted transfer request from my shared inheritance account. A draft wire of $83,000, scheduled to hit an account under the name M. Harrow Frost. Frost. Mel's maiden name. I'd found the transaction in a folder buried under 10 layers of misnamed PDFs on her laptop. A folder labeled Q4 Budget that had nothing to do with budgets and everything to do with a not-so-subtle attempt at laundering my dad's legacy into their private slush fund. Mel never had access to the money directly, but she had access to me, to my passwords, to my signature on the power of attorney document we signed at the bank 6 months ago for emergencies. I didn't think twice about it at the time. That was mistake number 1. But the attempted wire? That was mistake number 10. And this time, I wasn't cleaning up the mess. I was publicizing it. In the episode, I laid it out step by step. The shared account set up after Dad passed. The fake budget files on her laptop. The unsent email from Evan. The suspicious access logs to my personal online banking all traced to her home IP. And finally, the draft wire itself. I didn't accuse. I proved. By the time I was done narrating, you could practically hear the audience clenching their jaws through the headphones. Twitter exploded. Hashtag The Will trended for 12 straight hours. YouTubers started breaking down the episode like it was a true crime docuseries. Someone even made a conspiracy map, pictures of Mel and Evan connected by red string, thumbtacks, and call-out boxes labeled motive, access, and idiot. It was beautiful. Of course, Mel didn't take it well. She showed up at the apartment 2 days later, pounding on the door like the building was on fire. I didn't answer. I just turned up the volume on the Nest Cam and let it record. Her voice was shrill, panicked. "You're ruining my life, Jonah. This isn't justice. It's cruelty. Do you think people are going to forget what you've done to me? I'm getting death threats." I was in the kitchen, eating cereal, calm as a monk. She screamed again. "You're obsessed with revenge. You're sick." I muttered, sick enough to change all the locks. Then I went back to my cornflakes. Eventually, she left, but not before kicking the flower pot by the door so hard it shattered. Ceramic shards all over the hallway. A perfect metaphor. Later that night, I got a call from a lawyer. Not mine, hers. She wanted to settle. Quietly. Said she'd agree to sign over her share of the apartment. No contest. Just, please stop airing new episodes. I let him talk. Then I said, there's only one more episode left. You should tell her to tune in. And then I hung up. Because that was true. Just one more. The finale. I spent 3 straight nights writing it. Editing. Crafting the rhythm. Every breath. Every pause. I wanted it to be more than a podcast. I wanted it to be a confession booth for the digital age. And when episode 9, the end of the line, dropped, the internet held its breath. It opened in total silence. 10 seconds. No intro. No music. Just quiet. Then my voice. This is the final chapter. Not because I've run out of story, but because the story has run out of oxygen. There's nothing left to burn. I walked the audience through the aftermath. Evan, arrested. Probation revoked. Facing time again. Mel, exposed. Her job on hold. Her social media locked down. Her name scrubbed from 2 public-facing charity boards. Me? I wasn't angry anymore. Just done. Then came the final reveal. The true twist. A detail I hadn't shared yet. One I saved for this moment. The last 2 weeks, I'd been contacted by a producer. Someone with connections to one of the biggest streaming platforms in the world. They wanted the rights to the podcast. Not just for audio. For television. A limited series. Adapted. Dramatized. Documented. I paused in the episode, let the moment breathe. Then said, I hit record because people lie. But really, I hit record because I knew I wasn't crazy. And now everyone else knows too. The outro music was soft. Bittersweet. And the last line? Delivered like a punch. They thought the smart fridge was the mistake. But the real mistake was thinking I'd let it slide. Click. That was it. The feed went dark. The next day, I got a call confirming the paperwork had gone through. The series was greenlit. And just like that, the woman who tried to make me disappear would now be binge-watched in 13 countries. She wanted an exit strategy? This was mine. Public. Permanent. Profitable. I'd turn my heartbreak into high art. And all it took was hitting record. There's a moment after everything's burned down, when the fire's out, the crowd's gone home, and the only sound left is the crackling of ash beneath your boots. That's where I am now. Not angry. Not triumphant. Just still. Like the dust hasn't settled, it's evaporated. People think revenge is loud. That it ends with yelling, broken glass, someone storming out while the rain pours like it's on cue. But real revenge? It ends quietly, when there's nothing left to say, and the people who wronged you are sitting in the wreckage they built for you and accidentally set on fire. This is that moment. Let me take you back to the first morning after the finale aired. The day I stopped being a character in my own story and became a legend in theirs. It started at 7:13 a.m. when I checked my phone and saw the push alert from Variety. True Crime Meets Tech. The confessional podcast lands streaming deal at Vendetta Plus. Hired to serve as executive producer. I didn't smile. I didn't fist pump. I just read it, set the phone down, and went back to scrambling my eggs. A few minutes later, the buzz started. Text from people I hadn't heard from in years. Old friends. Ex-girlfriends. Even a few high school teachers. My middle school drama teacher sent a gif of Judi Dench raising her martini glass with the caption, "I knew you'd make it big." Funny thing was, I didn't feel big. I felt hollow. I know how that sounds. Per little podcast guy gets everything he wants, and now he's too sad to enjoy it. But that's not it. What I felt wasn't regret. It was weight. The kind that only comes when justice tips the scale so far in your favor it almost feels unfair. Mel texted that day, too. Of course she did. Mel, you win. I hope it was worth it. I lost my job. My parents won't speak to me. I can't go anywhere without someone staring. I have to move. I hope you sleep well. I didn't reply. What was I supposed to say? I hope you sleep well too, but not near any smart appliances? Instead, I archived the conversation and went on with my day. Here's the thing. Mel and Evan never understood the game they were playing. They thought I was just some sad audio nerd with a couple microphones and a nice apartment. They thought I'd break, that I'd roll over, that I'd hand over the keys to my life just to avoid confrontation. But I don't avoid confrontation. I produce it. And I had one more episode left to prove it. The secret episode. Episode 10, the recording they never heard. Unlisted. No intro. No announcements. I uploaded it anonymously. Shared the link with one person. A journalist. Well, not just any journalist, the same one who did the takedown piece on that hedge fund CEO who crashed his yacht into a coral reef while trying to escape a subpoena. This guy lives for drama. I knew he'd run with it. The episode started with a clip Mel had no idea existed. See, while I was doing all my forensic digging, I also found something in our home assistant's audio logs. Something buried deep from a week before I got the first alert. A test run. An early rendezvous. Recording begins. Mel, you sure this thing's not listening? Evan, nah, it's voice activated. You gotta say the trigger phrase. Just don't say, "Hey, chill," and we're golden. Mel, God, I can't believe I'm doing this. I feel like a Bond villain. Evan, you're hot enough to be one. Mel, laughs. So, what's the plan? Evan, we play it slow. Get him to sign the power doc. Start moving funds in small amounts. Once we've got enough, we vanish. Mel, and what if he finds out? Evan, then we say it was an accident. You were just trying to manage finances. He's so busy with his projects, he won't dig. End recording. It was everything. Intent. Premeditation. Malice. Forget betrayal. This was attempted financial murder. I stripped out my narration. Let the clip play raw. Then closed the episode with a single line. You never needed a trigger phrase. You just needed to be in the room. The journalist published it within hours. Embedded the full audio. Wrote a headline that read like a bullet. Leaked audio confirms the confessional wasn't just cheating, it was a conspiracy. Boom. Within 24 hours, Mel deleted every social account. Within 48, Evan was charged with attempted wire fraud, a lovely new addition to his legal resume. And me? I got invited to a panel at South by Southwest. Title, Turning Pain into Profit, The Power of Personal Narratives. I said I'd think about it. Not because I didn't want to go, but because I didn't want this to become my only story. Here's the truth. I didn't build a podcast about cheating. I built a monument to truth. One that starts with betrayal, sure, but ends with exposure, accountability, and a guy who refused to be the punchline in someone else's power fantasy. I'm not proud of everything I did, but I'm not ashamed of any of it. Sometimes you gotta burn the house down just to prove it was full of termites. And you know what? The new foundation's looking real solid. These days, I still get recognized. Mostly at cafes and tech meetups. Hey, aren't you the fridge guy? Yeah, that's me. Jonah Harrow. The guy who caught a crime with a kitchen appliance. The guy who turned betrayal into broadcast gold. The guy who taught the world the most important lesson of the decade. Always check your smart home's audio settings. Now if you'll excuse me. I've got a meeting with Vendetta Plus. We're casting for the lead. They want someone who can play calm, clever, and quietly dangerous. I told them I know just the guy. I'll be in the booth if you need me. Subscribe to the channel